Ready? I'll call it to order. We'll start with the sheriff with roll call.
Sheriff Tommy Johnson present. Rick Warren.
Carrie Hudson for Marissa Treat.
Carrie Bloomer.
Brian Mon.
Butch Freeman.
Miles Davidson. Mike Morrison for Assessor Larry Stein.
It was properly posted on June 27th. Would the court clerk like to lead us in the pledge?
I would. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 1. This is a transfer from the appropriation of ARPA for the premium pay.
From ARPA to ARPA. So just within ARPA. I move approval of item 1.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 2 is a transfer from capital to ARPA.
Program, sorry. Coming out CBI program. Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And item 3, this has been the thing discussed about with the courts. Commissioner Bloomer.
I wanted to bring this item before you all today, and Judge Ogden and Judge Andrews are both here. Who they can speak to this, but after many discussions, we have determined that it is too late in the fiscal year to take any action today. But I did want to allow the judges to come up and speak, and we can have a discussion about this topic and kind of figure out what our next steps are. And this is regarding some security in the courthouse, badge readers, maybe some
card readers and
Card-
locks for chambers. It originally was proposed for the entire courtroom and office for each individual judge, but now it's been reduced in price, obviously, because we're just dealing with security measures for the judges' chambers and the door leading into the chambers. It doesn't really address the door leading into the courtrooms. So the real purpose, and I want to thank everybody for the special meeting and being afforded the opportunity to address this issue, because I think it's very important to provide security for our Oklahoma County judges. There has been a marked increase in the last several years of death threats made to many of my colleagues. If you're unaware of that, I can tell you, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's been dozens, and we have it documented. So it's really imperative that we provide as much security. I mean, we deal with the public every day, and so that's why I believe this is a very important matter that should be addressed, and we want to at least get it on the radar. So budgetarily wise, it can be addressed perhaps when we're dealing with the supplemental portion or the lapse portion, and then the ultimate approval of the 23-24 budget. So I'm available for questions. Judge Ogden's available. I had asked Captain Baisden to be here because we've worked together for the last 4 or 5 months and getting the information necessary for the proposals with Captain Baisden.
And I do want to clarify that we were diligently trying to use ARPA funds for this project, and Accenture was pretty adamant that they would not give it the green light, that it did not fit within ARPA guidelines, which was a little surprising to me, but it is what it is. So then we had discussions about potentially using the court fund allocation that for this current fiscal year that we are in, and it was a little too late in the budget year to be able to do that. And so then we had a long discussion with Cody, and you can come up and kind of explain if you would like, that in September, when the BET and then the budget board discussed the September supplement, there is likely, it is not guaranteed, but there is likely going to be more money come in than what we have budgeted for. And so that was what our discussion turned into, was can we look at that amount that comes in during the September supplement that typically goes into our reserve. And of course, there are other projects and other things that this budget board have discussed that those funds could be spent on. But that was, now that we cannot use ARPA, that is where the discussion went, was addressing this again in September and trying to fund it in September.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Commissioner.
I'd like to speak on it. Our security provided by Sheriff Tommy Johnson is very important to our sheriff, and he does a great job. The cameras that we're getting through ARPA, I believe, goes along with these card readers. I think ARPA was not quite clear on what this does. On one judge on the 7th floor, just one, in the last 10 days, I've set 180 cases a day. Now, that cases don't always come with one person. They come with lawyers, witnesses, and all types of things. But 180 a day, the masses. You pick any judge, they're going to be very, very busy. People that are coming to this building, 5 out of 6 are going over to the courthouse and seeing these judges. And so the future of a pandemic coming back is almost positive. It wasn't a one-time thing. It's going to happen again. From the flus to COVID, it's going to happen. And so by having these locks, we're protecting the judges, not only from someone who wants to plant a gun outside our gate and try to kill one of our judges, but we know where they're going. The cameras are limited. But by using these card readers, we can tell where somebody that's had COVID, once we find out they've got it, every room that they've gone in that courtroom. If they went into judges' chambers, we'll know it because they had to use a card reader to go in there during the night to clean or whatever they're doing. The protection of our judges, our 35, soon to be 37 judges, I would think would be one of the most important thing, and I believe all of us think that. And we thank you, Tommy, for all you do. We appreciate you very much. But this is very necessary to have these in the future. I know we don't have the money now. Money's limited. We understand that. But in the future, this is something we have to do. We have to protect the judges, and each one of those stores should have card readers on them.
I totally support the project. I totally agree with the need for the project. But man, I don't understand the details on it. And Cody, wear your asbestos underwear because you're going to need it. Because again, the project's great. I don't follow the dollars. And I've got to understand that before I will ever be comfortable with it. I do have a question on a card reader. So you'll have to have a card to get in. Do you have to have a card then as the judge to get out? Never mind. Cody.
So, I mean, in terms of just the system, it's an integrated system with the digicamera, so it's more than just a card reader. In this instance, then there's also going to be a camera. There's also going to be a camera that will be then, I think it'll be on the basically the bailiff's desk, where then they can buzz people in. So most of the time, this will be more like what happens in the federal system. The federal district judges, their chambers are no longer open; they're buzzed in. So, you know, it provides security because most of the time, or a lot of the time, the judges are in their chambers. That's where that's the 8 to 5 portion of our day. And so, you know, when you're in the courtroom, that's absolutely, you know, very much subject to the public, and that's fine. But this actually provides that security when you're in chambers. And in terms of just the dollar figure, this went down significantly after dropping it from all the doors to just the chamber stores. So it dropped from a price point of around 1.2 million to this $500,000.
Is Captain Basin here? Uh-oh. Captain Basin can explain. I mean, that was a wonderful explanation, but if you have further questions, Captain Basin has been the one to get these quotes and to figure out what actual physical things we need to purchase.
I've got no questions on any of that. I got a simple question. Where's this money coming from? And fiscal year ends for us tomorrow. It actually ends on Sunday. So it actually ends tomorrow. Anyway, so those are the questions, is how are we going to get this? How are we going to keep from losing this $493,000?
Well, so as you know, there has been over this last year, the Supreme Court provides assistance to the county and that's in the form of a court fund. And that, this year, it's $775,000. So if the budget board here is supportive of something of this nature, then those funds are scheduled to be released. And so that would be, we can't utilize those funds this year because it's just too many moving pieces. But the idea, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that there is a surplus amount scheduled for the 23-24 county budget of around $2 million carryover. And so when the supplement is addressed, if there's more than that what's budgeted there, then that would come out of that excess supplement after the reconciliation
Your Honor, here's where the concern is now, from at least me as the county treasurer. We budgeted in this year's budget in anticipated revenues, $698,113 from the state court fund for court fund maintenance. To my knowledge, we have yet to receive a single dollar of that. So what we have budgeted, and we talk about taking it out of the surplus. Well, the first we're taking out of the surplus is the $698,113 because it's not there.
It'll be there today, Butch. I've signed it yesterday for the entire amount. I think it's 773,000 some change. But I signed it yesterday. Judge Andrew signed it this morning. The check will be cut today.
Are you kidding me?
That's before the end.
But I do want to clarify, and Cody can explain this. We had this discussion the other day,
You on that?
that we are very grateful and happy that that check is coming today, but we cannot spend that money on this project because it's the fiscal year ends tomorrow.
It's all of the funds become carryover.
It'll be
I mean,
carried
that's
over.
all
The
in
funds will
one,
be
so
there. Project won't start till next year.
I don't care where you get the money from as long as it's here.
Yeah.
And if it's here, then hey, we're okay then.
And hopefully we'll be back on track, paying it month by month, getting the services and expecting the services the courts deserve.
Because question on our comment on that, in the budget that's been approved for the next fiscal year, there was $773,559 budgeted in that as anticipated revenues for court fund maintenance. And as far as we know, and we're looking maybe and hope to get that on a month-to-month basis, you're telling me?
It comes month to month. I sign it every month. And it has been held this year. They felt we weren't getting the maintenance that we needed.
Okay.
It's now all been worked out with everyone, and so everything get back on track.
We are working on a memorandum of understanding for FY 23-24. And so that has, I think, for the most part, been agreed to and fleshed out, and it provides on how those dollars will be utilized, and it will be different than what's been in the past, but at least it provides an MOU going forward.
And the money goes into the general fund month to month, and we have full trust in the maintenance crew and the people that will do the work, that they will take care of the courts and keep everything up to speed.
So essentially, they're writing the check to get it back. That's what's happening.
Cody, did you have anything you wanted to explain or add?
Thank you, Your Honors.
And I knew today that we wouldn't be able to make any official vote or decision today, but I wanted the judges to be able to come and make sure that everyone was aware and that we would be addressing this in the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yes.
So there's no action at all we have to take on this item?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We could.
Is that your motion?
No,
Well, I'm asking you if you want to motion it. No?
What did you say, Cody? I didn't hear you.
Cody or me?
I'm sorry. You're the new guy. I haven't got your name down.
Not the first time that's happened.
No, it's just suggesting that
Right. It should be done exactly that way.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Motion.
In the crazy days that we live in,
Well, The trouble
okay,
is though, everything's got, and you said you've already got the, assigned the claim and so the money's coming in, but do we not? We,
The money's in the court fund, so the check will be issued today. You will have it, it'll go in general fund, be a carryover, money will be there.
okay, okay, okay. And so that way, by making it and putting it into the carryover, then it will become next fiscal year expended.
This project will be a next fiscal year
Fiscal year.
project.
Okay.
so
Budget on that, Cody? Is that built into the budget or did you leave it out?
Yes, it is. It's built into next year's budget. The problem with the money, now that it's come available, it was built into this year's budget, so it was part of all of the line items that were developed. So even though the money hasn't been there all year, it's still spoken for. So once we get into next fiscal year, we'll have next fiscal year dollars that we can start looking at. And at September supplement, we can, determine where we're gonna, we usually put a lot of that money into reserve, but then there are some other accounts that we help with, whether it's, capital expenses or whatever. And this is an item that we can consider at that time. The purpose of this agenda was kind of informational, so everybody's aware of this issue moving forward, what the dollar amount is looking like right now, so that everybody's prepared going into next fiscal year that this is something that is on the horizon.
So just to clarify, the 775 that they wrote the check for is carryover separate from what you built the budget on for the next FY's,
No,
whatever next FY's number was.
no, what Mr. Warren and Presiding Judge Andrews signed was what was budgeted for this year.
This FY.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
actually goes into carryover at this point, right?
It
Because we've already expended those funds. I mean, we've already made those bills and cut those checks, right?
Right.
So we've already expended all that money. So now it just goes back and it basically refunds us for the money that we've expended.
The way that's worked in the past is it just comes into general fund and as part of a revenue source, and then we, dole that money out. And then whatever's left from the revenue that we receive for that year versus the expenses will be the carryover. So it'll all be lumped into one. So it's hard to say that this would be carryover versus something else, but generally we always have a pretty significant carryover.
The most important thing though is that this money by carryover, we have enriched ourselves in the coming fiscal year by this much, which we will then turn around and be able to use on this project.
Not necessarily. This was built into this year's expenses. This revenue was. Yeah.
Right.
This carryover would have happened anyway. If you look at, but we budget for everything. So it was budgeted in. The money has been spent. We would have had carryover. Even if you'd had the money, we should have that carryover because we pay all our bills and everything's been taken. Nothing was left unpaid. We're way down, but nothing was left unpaid. Now we have the money from the court fund. It's going to go in. It's very simple. I think, though, that we should follow the normal procedure for the locks, just like we do everything else. Go infrastructure. We should go through the budget board. We should go through BET, everything, and do it the right way, but put it on fast track and just make sure it's one of the first things we look at during the first of the year because it's desperately needed. And I do think we ought to represent it to ARPA based on the social distancing, because when these lawyers show up, any lawyer in the room will know, and they've got all these cases in this particular courtroom, they all go back there. They need to be buzzed in so that you don't get too many lawyers, clients, people back there where the judge's chambers is for social distancing.
I totally agree. I'd like to see it done this afternoon. I just don't want to be us going back before these two judges explaining how we violated the Appropriations Act. And I think I'm totally satisfied. I think. But
I don't
doing
think we
something up
violated.
here, I'm just.
We'll be having our first BET meeting of the year here in a week and a half or so. And this is an item that we can place on our beginning watch list so that we are tracking it and we don't forget about it. And then when we get to having conversations about additional funding, this will be an item that we will discuss.
Okay, and that is something else that bothered me. I wanted to bring up. Your Honors, I assume you're wanting to move on this pretty darn fast, right?
In discussing this resolution, vis-a-vis the court fund and the county commissioners, it was that in September, when looking at the supplement, that's when we'll really know what the carryover is and how much is there. And how much is there in excess of what has been budgeted as carryover to help fund the FY 23-24 county budget. So that's why the timeframe there is to look at this in September, and then to be able to look at that and say, here's the money. It can be now it's appropriated by the county to do this project, and that would be the time frame.
And you're comfortable with that schedule?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I do. I'm
And
sorry,
you know,
go-
I think that we tried really hard with Accenture, and I was very frank. I'm not saying anything today that I didn't say at the P&G meeting. I disagree with their assessment. I think they're wrong. I told them that. I thought that it was based upon a lack of understanding. We went back around to them that same day, called them, talked about how we would bring the price point down, how that might be more within their scale. And basically, we were just told, there's nothing that you can say anymore that's going to change your mind. And so, I mean, at a certain point, you feel like, you know, that it's just a pretty hard, it is a hard no, unfortunately.
And I was in that meeting and can attest to that. And my staff before that worked on it very diligently and advocated the same and was getting the same response. I certainly support the project. I want to help you get it done as quick as possible. I recognize the need, and I want to thank both of you, particularly Judge Andrews, who helped us keep from avoid losing this contribution from the state, which I know was at stake at one point. So thank you for doing your part. We can argue over about whether or not different aspects of it, but one thing was clear that he and I agreed on is if we didn't work on this, we were going to lose the money altogether to consider for carryover or otherwise. So obviously that was on you for doing that. So thank you.
And I'd like to add to that, the thanks to the court clerk. That is incredibly well done, the way you got all of that stuff done yesterday night and ready to finish it up today. I do applaud you and your staff for that. That's wonderful.
It's my staff. Thank you very much, and I love working with the judges. It's been an honor to work with you. Thank you.
I do too.
I do have a question in regards to you mentioned the price point was reduced. Will this be a phase one of another phase beyond that?
Ideally, that would be, but we know that, you know, when the ARPA funds were a hard no, then, you know, that really required a reassessment. And so I think we can take a look at things in the future. But this, again, you know, if you have the chamber access is the key, because we can physically lock the doors from the courtroom to the chambers. What the problem is that you have people all day long coming from the hallway to the chambers, and that's where it's really key to have that camera, card reader, and buzzing. Ideally, that'd be great, but we know, you know, practically where we are.
As a follow-up to your point, though, in my conversations with Keith yesterday, this is likely not the sum total cost of the project. There will probably be some things discovered in this old 1938 building that there just always tends to be. So I think probably the likelihood of expecting this to cost a little bit north of what it is right now on the agenda item is pretty probable.
Plaster and paint. We're gonna have to do a lot of plastering and painting.
That's just if they just don't run into other problems.
Typically with Digi systems, what we've ran into is compatibility with the legacy systems. We're gonna have computer upgrades and stuff like that that are not included in this bid. So it's be aware, it will be north of this.
And I think as a contingency thing for you to start having conversations about is that these fail from time to time, even though you've had them for a long time. I mean, just all of a sudden the other day, I wasn't able to get into my own space and that just things just changed. Either computer drops the stuff. And so if it's an urgent matter and a judge needs in their chamber, particularly after hours, and they can't get in, probably need to figure out a plan on that because there might not just be a facilities person here that can just Johnny on the spot it. It also is probably a policy thing to discuss about who does get access that mirrors what the judge will get. Because those are protocol decisions that you'll need to make. But if they aren't inclusive of people who like need to get in there to resolve a roof leak or a plumbing situation that has erupted or whatever, then the situation could be pretty dire by the time you arrive. But for safety and protocols and other things that you're considering, you may want limited access, but it may come with consequences. So just stuff for you to consider right now. If there's no action on this item,
I'll move this item to be discussed at the next BET meeting or a near future BET meeting.
I'll second it.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then due to a system error, we need to revote on items 1 and 2. Is there a motion to take both items?
Motion to take both items.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any citizens who wish to speak before the budget board? Any board comments? If not, wish everybody happy 4th of July. And is there a motion to
I'd
adjourn?
like to make one comment. We have a person that's very important to the county that's been in an accident. Mr. Wilkinson, so mention him in your prayers.
Okay. Is there a
I'd al-
motion to adjourn?
I'd also like to wish everyone a happy new year.
You want to announce your swearing in?
Oh, yeah, I'll announce my swearing in. I'm going to be sworn in, I'm proud to say, at 9:30 Monday morning. And hopefully all of you have heard about this already in the form of an invitation. Hopefully that as many of you as can will be there. I was asked one time, well, what happened if you don't get a crowd? Doesn't matter to me. I'm still going to be sworn in. So anyway, I do invite you. I I understand that the commissioners are working with me, so hopefully to have you and the other people who are involved with the commission meeting. So Monday morning, July 3rd, 9:30.
And you're being sworn in as president of Rotary tonight.
And I'm being sworn.
I'll help you with all your.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get sworn in as the incoming president of our Rotary Club, which we also are on the same year, July 1. So as of tonight, I will be sworn in for that.
Congratulations. Any other
Thank you.
board comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
I've been sworn at more than what I'm normally used to. Judges.